You smell that?
Nature's most powerful aphrodisiac.
Leaving right after this drink. Rock and roll, whiskey, and other stories.
Wow!
With your host, Brian Shaw.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Here we go. Things are about to get a little interesting. And I say a little because some of my stories are pretty good. Others, we'll see. Depends on what you think and your feedback from just listening to, what I have to say over the next 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to try and keep these short because, look, your time is valuable. And as much as I might like to hear myself talk, you don't necessarily want to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes just hearing me ramble on about nothing. So basically, what's going to happen in this podcast is I'm going to tell you different things that happened to me over my storied career in the entertainment business. My name is Brian. I spent about 20 years in that business between radio and television. And I got to tell you, man, I was extremely lucky to meet a lot of the people that I did. I look around, the studio here and I see different photos with strippers and porn stars and musicians and bands and actors. And I just think, man, I cannot believe that happened to a kid from Granite City, Illinois, a little small town just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. But I survived, and here I am to tell you about some of those stories. And, I got to tell you, even kind of venturing into this, I'd always wanted to do something by myself and but I wasn't ever sure what I really wanted to do. And had some friends, and my brother kind of pushed me into, dude, you got great stories. You should talk about it. So I figured, what the hell, let's give it a shot. If you guys like it, cool, I'll keep going. And if you don't, I might still keep going because who really knows? Like I said, I have no idea. It's just a good way for me to kill, 15 or 20 minutes less, maybe once a week, twice a week. Who really knows how often I'm going to do this? I'm just kind of winging it right now, as it is just the first episode of us getting going here. And, just to kind of back up a little bit, a lot of preparation really goes into putting one of these up, right? Like, it doesn't take a lot. You don't need a lot of equipment. You just need a microphone, a camera, and you're kind of good to go, right? And maybe, in my case, a good story. And so, but there's also a cool logo that's involved, a catchy name, and again, a great story. So I got the logo part taken care of, I think. I think it's pretty awesome. So I got to say, first of all, thanks to my friend Katie, because you know what? If it wasn't for her, this thing would have been grammatically incorrect in a couple of different spots. But she caught it because she was focused on that while I was focused on the way I looked on the picture. So I'll be selling these t-shirts on my website, by the way, brianshaw.com, if you guys want to grab one. Just allow a few weeks for delivery, but we'll definitely get them to you. And so anyhow, so thanks to her, Katie did an awesome job picking up on that stuff. And by the way, Katie's an awesome bartender and one of my favorites because she pours a damn good, strong drink. And I like that. So here I am, got my Jack Daniels on the rocks in hand, and sitting here even still kind of going, man, what should my first story be about? Who should I talk about? What should we talk about? It's just really simple. These things are going to be 15 minutes or less, hopefully. And we're just going to talk about the people that I met over the years. And, we'll just see what happens. And so, as I look around and I think, some of you might even be thinking, wow, this guy looks like a young Gregg Allman. Well, that has happened to me quite a bit. I get called that a lot. People tell me I look like Gregg Allman, not even a young one anymore, because obviously I'm not so young. But here's the cool thing. How often is it that you get compared to a legend? A guy who started a genre of music. Like, that's pretty fucking awesome. Not to mention he was married to Cher at one point, which is even cooler because, Cher, pretty fucking hot. And still kind of is. So anyhow, get a little sidetracked there, but that's going to happen because I'm talking to myself. So anyhow, you guys may have ran into the same people that I might talk about. You may know the same people that I'm talking about. You may have met them and had the same experience as me as it being really cool. You may have had an opposite experience of it being very bad or whatever. And that's cool too. It's all about just my experience and meeting these people and, my reaction or just what happened as that went down on that particular day. So, as I sit here and think about it, one story that always pops into my head is when I went to an Allman Brothers show out in Los Angeles at the Greek Theater. Now, I've seen the Allman Brothers tons of times. I've never gotten to meet any of the, or at least I shouldn't say any of the Allman Brothers. I did meet Warren Haynes at one point in time in my life, and he was pretty nice. And but I have not had I never had the chance of meeting Gregg Allman, and everybody used to say I look like Gregg Allman. Like no matter who I met, George Thorogood, ZZ Top, like these guys all said, "Hey man, you look like." Well, in their case, they said Dwayne Allman. Billy Gibbons and George Thorogood are the only two that ever said that I look like Dwayne Allman. But everybody else, it's Gregg Allman, and I think that was just because he was obviously the one who lived the longest. But I did have the opportunity once to talk to Gregg on the phone, and that was pretty awesome. Super laid back, super nice guy. But oh, excuse me, Jack Daniels. So so this story always comes up because it's actually one of my favorite stories to tell about the Allmans, because again, people saying that I looked like Gregg, and people used to always come up with great ways to say I looked like him without really saying it. They would try different creative things, or they would always say, "Oh man, you look like Gregg Allman." I mean, that's cool and everything. It was always followed up by "That's cool" and everything. Like what? I'm not going to get offended by that. Look, I've been called way worse in my day, so I'm not really concerned about that. But this time I was out in Los Angeles when I lived there the first time, and I think this was like early 2000s, and a friend of mine had tickets to go see the Allman Brothers at the Greek Theater, and so I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll join you." I mean, the Allman Brothers was the first concert I ever saw, and so I thought, "What the hell? It's been a while since I've seen them. Let's go." So we hit the show. Show's awesome. Chris Robinson, I remember, came out and did a couple songs with the band, which that was the first time I had ever even seen like another artist from another band come out and join the band on stage. So that was really cool. Couldn't tell you what song they played, but it was still pretty awesome to even just experience that. And the show ends, and my friend decides he's going to go buy a T-shirt, and so I'm like, "Okay, cool." So this is still early 2000s. This is still the time when like cell phones are only this big, and people aren't text messaging back and forth all the time, or watching movies or porn or whatever on their phones. No, this is still like you got to hit the button 4 times to get like the F or whatever. So yeah, this is crazy. So I'm just kind of standing off to the side, and I have my phone, my little flip phone, kind of open, and I'm just like looking at my phone, and I just happen to look over about 20 feet away, and there's like 2 couples standing there, and they're kind of laughing and looking and pointing. And I thought to myself, "Oh, great, here we go. This is one of those times when somebody's gonna go, 'Oh, you look like Gregg Allman,' blah, blah," but they're trying to think of a different way to say it, maybe, or I'm not really sure what they're doing, but I can tell they're obviously talking about me. So I'm kind of curious as to what's about to happen. And just 30 seconds later or so, they come walking over. And the woman, she's drunker than a skunk. They all probably were pretty shit-faced. And the woman says to me, "You put on a great show tonight." And I kind of looked at her like, "Well, thank you very much." And I thought to myself, why would she say that? Like, I obviously don't have a beard. And at the time, I didn't have a beard. And at the time, Gregg Allman had a beard. And yet, she doesn't realize that I don't have a beard or something. I don't know what was going on, but it was kind of hilarious. And I'm like, "Well, thank you," And I was I was a little bit standoffish because I wasn't quite sure where she was going with it. And she introduces me to her husband or boyfriend or whoever was with her and her other 2 friends. And I shook their hands, and she's like, "I just can't believe you guys put on such a great show tonight." And in my head, I'm still kind of thinking, like, is she trying to be different in how she says that I look like Gregg Allman without actually saying I look like Gregg Allman? Like, I wasn't quite sure. And then she says to me, she says, "You know, my mom always told me that a man who can play piano is a man who can hold a room." And I really didn't know what to say at that point, but the first thing that popped into my head was, well, your mom was a very smart woman. We all kind of laughed, and she's just like, "Oh man, I just can't believe I can't believe I'm like standing here." And at this point, it kind of hits me like, holy shit, she really thinks that I'm Gregg Allman. Like, I don't know. And I'm kind of like in panic mode a little bit because I'm like, what do I do? And I can see people kind of looking around and whatever. And she says, hey, would you do me a favor though? And I'm like, sure, I guess. And she starts rummaging through her purse and she pulls out an Allman Brothers CD and she's like, this is my favorite CD from you guys. And I said, well, that's great. And she says, would you mind signing this for me? And I said, well, I don't have anything to sign it with. And she's like, oh, that's okay. And she's rummaging through her purse again, and boom, out pops a Sharpie. Like, this woman is totally prepared to meet somebody from the band at some point. So I'm like, oh shit. And now in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you spell his name? Is it 2 G's? Is it 1 G? Like, I've never seen his signature before. I don't know what to do other than, well, I guess I'm going to sign her CD. So I asked her what her name is, and I don't remember what it was. It could have been Lisa or Stephanie or Mary, who the hell knows. And I said, okay. So I grabbed the Sharpie and the CD cover, and I wrote, to Mary, and I just went G and a line and A and a line, and I said, here you go. Thanks for coming out tonight. And she gives me this huge hug and just was like, thank you so much. Oh my God, this was so amazing. And at this point, I'm still kind of looking around at people and I'm like, I don't know what's about to happen or what people are thinking, but I probably need to get the hell out of here. But again, she just gave me a big hug, and her boyfriend or husband or whatever, shakes my hand again. And I'm like, thank you guys, but I need to go. And I walk away. And as I walk away, I'm like making a beeline to where my friend is, where he is buying a t-shirt, still standing in line. And I like duck down like I'm tying my shoe. And he's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing, dude? I'm like, I'll tell you in a minute. And he gets his shirt. And by this point, the crowd is definitely dispersed amongst the Greek theater at this point. And so we're probably one of the last that are walking out. And he looks at me and he goes, Brian, I can't believe that like nobody stopped you tonight. Like nobody even said that you look like one of the Allmans. And I said, well, you know what, dude, I was kind of thinking the same thing myself until like a few minutes ago when I was literally standing 20 feet from you signing Gregg Allman's autograph on a CD for some woman. And he looks at me and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? And I go, yeah, dude, I was just like signing his autograph over there for some drunk lady. And evidently, I think I made her night, her year, her life. I don't really know. But tomorrow, she's probably going to wake up and be like, what the fuck is this signature on my favorite CD? And at that time, like CDs were, 15, 16 bucks a pop. So, who knows? For some people, that was hard earned money back then. So I'm like, yeah, dude, like it was pretty insane. And insane from a standpoint of like, oh shit. So anyhow, so he's, as we're walking out of it, he's like, dude, we should go and check out like their bus and see if we can get some groupies or something. I'm like, yeah, no. we definitely don't need to do that. Like, nothing against any Allman Brothers groupies, but probably not my speed. But anyhow, so we get in the car and we're driving home, and I'm telling him the story, and he's laughing, and we're both just like, what the hell, man? Like, just so weird. And it was the only time I ever signed Gregg Allman's autograph. But if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me I looked like Gregg Allman, I'll tell you what, I probably wouldn't be here doing this podcast. Anyhow, thank you for joining me on this first episode of I'm leaving right after this drink, rock and roll, whiskey, and other stories. And by the way, if you've ever signed a famous person's autograph, feel free to hit me up on my website. And once again, the website is brianshaw.com. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. You dig?
God bless the internet.